KDA is without a doubt one, if not the most, consistently talked about statistics in League of Legends. KDA, otherwise known as the average of your kills, deaths, and assists, can be calculated by adding up your kills and assists and dividing that number by your amount of deaths. For example, somebody who goes 3, 2, and 7 in a game would have a KDA of 5, while someone who goes 1, 5, and 4 in a game would have a KDA of 1. You probably know this already though, so let's move on. The reason KDA is so often discussed is because the controversy that coincides with it. Some have come to believe that KDA can single-handedly define a player's performance, while others see KDA as nothing more than a number and has little meaning to its name. KDA has practically become the go-to statistic in the League of Legends community when someone is seeking evidence to blame a player for the loss of a game. I'm sure you've seen this many times by now, or maybe by chance you're guilty of it yourself, when a player towards the end of a lost game says something along the lines of, "We lost because this guy was inting," or "This guy was just feeding," or something along those lines because their KDA was fairly low. But the thing is, who's to say that these guys are just in their flame, based entirely off of one statistic? The short answer would be no. They are not in any way justified to say a lost game lies solely on the shoulders of a teammate with a bad KDA. League of Legends is such a competitive and popular game because of the variety of factors that go into a team being able to win a given game. KDA might be one of the most common things to look at. There are literally hundreds of different factors and statistics that can determine the outcome of a game, such as team comps, lane matchups, itemization choices, which dragons come up, CS advantages, kill participation, team death percentage, scaling, matchmaking, macroplay, microplay, positioning, reaction time, decision making, and synergy. I mean, the list can literally go on and on. My point here is, KDA is merely a statistic that sums up how many kills, deaths, and assists someone has in a given game, but it does not factor in how you actually played, nor is it the single determining factor in a game. Let's pull up some examples. Yasuo, aka Mo, aka Zayn Malik, aka the guy who solo killed Faker like 5 times, is a prime example that KDA is overrated in that it does not determine as much as many people in the community have come to believe. His official summoner name is Yasuo with 2 S's, but for the sake of avoiding confusion between talking about him versus talking about the actual champion, I'll refer to him as Mo. Mo is a Yasuo one-trick with over 300 Yasuo games played on his main account alone, currently sitting at around rank 95 in North America and holding a 57% win rate. He is well known in the League of Legends community as one of the best Yasuo players there is, while maintaining a KDA of just 1.87. Not only that, but he also averages more deaths than kills, which means his kill to death ratio is actually negative. Theoretically, these statistics combined would clarify him as a below average player. Obviously though, Mo is one of the more talented young players in North America. Mo has an aggressive playstyle, and I can personally say from experience, he has some sick outplays up his sleeve. He's not afraid to sacrifice his life for the sake of his team, and he is able to win a majority of his games due to his playmaking potential, continuously putting his team in the position to capitalize and thus come out on top. Aside from the fact that he is often sacrificing his life for the greater good, the champion itself is another reason Mo's average KDA seems low. Yasuo is just a playmaking champion due to his ability to dive into teamfights, dishing out massive knockups and putting out tons of damage simultaneously. This is a big reason why Yasuo as a champion averages over 6 deaths a game, which is on the higher side of average deaths per champion, while still maintaining a 52% win rate among all elos. Moving on to my next point, this same principle applies to all champions gifted with a playmaking potential. Look at a Thresh for example compared to a Janna. A good Thresh player will play aggressive, looking to land the big hooks onto carries, diving in and locking them down for their team, while a good Janna will sit in the back with their carries trying to keep them as healthy as possible, while also trying to peel off assassins and tanks. These different playstyles will result in a different amount of deaths no matter how skilled the player on the champion may be. In other words, playstyles on different champions will simply result in different KDAs. This means just because a Janna has the same KDA as a Thresh, that does not mean they play just as good as each other. Chances could have been that the Janna was mispositioned and died more times than she should have, while the Thresh was making plays for his team and sacrificing his life in the process. On a side note, just to add on to the idea of playmaking, KDA does not have any influence whatsoever when taking into consideration final plays that may determine the outcome of a game. In a game I played just the other day, I had a Camille on my team who was hard carrying the game and kept the rest of us in it despite the rest of us being super far behind for the majority of it. She had 18 of our total kills and was getting solo kills practically all over the map. However, when it came to the late game, she engaged way too far ahead of our team, dying instantly and losing the game for us. The end screen KDA here might show that she deserved to win the game, but the gameplay showed otherwise. The exact opposite of this situation happened for me personally in a game I played on a lower ranked account very recently. I was not playing good by any means throughout the early parts of the game, but when it mattered most, I came up with a Baron steal which helped my team win the game in the long run. My KDA might show that I played poorly, which I did for the most part, but my one big play was a major reason why we were able to win that game, and my KDA at the end did not properly capture that. Moving on to the final point, and what I believe to be the most important aspect of KDA, goes right back to what I said earlier about players blaming others for losses, and more specifically for not climbing. I cannot possibly put into words how many times I've heard a player complain about their teammates dying too much, or just being bad in general, to the point that they sincerely believe that that is the reason they aren't climbing. If you're one of those people who thinks you're not climbing because of your teammates, I really hate to break it to you, but you're just wrong. There are very few cases in which one player decides to intentionally feed or somebody decides to rage quit, and in those few cases, games can in fact be unwinnable. But however, a good player will take advantage of the majority of the games which don't include these very uncommon and unfortunate scenarios. Every game that starts and finishes as a 5v5 is winnable. Every game presents each and every player with the opportunity to make plays, shot call, and carry the game to victory. And as much as you may not like to hear it, the only reason for losing a game is not playing well enough to win it. I was unable to find the VOD, so you'll just have to trust me on this one, but in previous streams I've heard both Doublift and I'm a Cutie Pie, two of the most talented AD carries in North America, come out and say that if they lose a game, the only reason for it is that they didn't play well enough to carry their teammates. There's always something you could have done differently, so if you're one of those people who likes to blame teammates after the game, just don't. Don't look at the first player you see with double-digit deaths and blame them. Look back at your own play and ask yourself what you could have done better to put you and your team further ahead so that those of your teammates who were behind were still carryable. Change your mentality to focus on yourself more than anything, rather than the mistakes of others. Once again, I would like to restate that there are few games out there that are just flat out winnable due to AFKs or intentionally feeders or so forth, but at the same time, every other game is winnable and a game is never lost due to one player with a bad KDA. In the end of it all, I think KDA is nothing more than a number. It sums up the overall score of a player but provides very little outside of that. The decision making and execution of plays, among other things, are the factors that will ultimately win you the game in the long run. I understand this is a controversial topic, but I did my research and I strongly stand by my claim. If you disagree or if you have some form of counter-argument, feel free to open a discussion in the comments below. Anyways, thanks for watching guys. Liking and subscribing does help the channel grow and it is greatly appreciated. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Peace.